Nathan Carver stepped off the Greyhound bus onto Bellhaven's cracked pavement. The fog so thick he could taste the salt on his lips. It was April 2025, and after 4 years in the Middle East, sand in his boots, the crack of gunfire still echoing in his dreams, he was finally home. The 32-year-old U.S. Army sergeant adjusted the duffel bag on his shoulder, his eyes scanning the quiet street. Bellhaven hadn't changed much on the surface. The same weathered storefronts, the same rusted sign for the Rusty Anchor Bar, the same gray cliffs looming over the ocean. But something felt off, a tension he couldn't name, like the air before a firefight. He walked the short distance to his mother's house near the docks, the sound of waves a steady murmur beneath the fog. Ellen Carver was waiting on the porch, her graying hair tied back, her smile warm but strained. "Nathan, you're too skinny," she said, pulling him into a hug that smelled of lavender and fish stew. "4 years is too long." "I missed you too, Mom," Nathan said, his voice rough but soft. He'd grown up in this house, a kid who'd fished with his dad off those docks, who'd run through these streets with scraped knees. Bellhaven was supposed to be his safe harbor, but as he stepped inside, he noticed the lines on his mother's face, deeper than he remembered. "How's the town holding up?" Ellen hesitated, stirring a pot on the stove. "It's been tense," she said. "Fights at the bar, break-ins. Last month, Jimmy Tate got stabbed outside the market. Never thought I'd see that here." Her voice was quiet, the kind of quiet that carried weight. Nathan frowned, setting his bag down. "Jimmy Tate? The guy who used to sneak us candy from the store?" "Yeah," Ellen said, her eyes flickering to the window. "Folks are on edge. Don't know why." He followed her gaze, looking towards St. Callum's Church on the cliff. The tower stood silent, its clock frozen at 5:58. Growing up, the angel's voice had tolled every evening at 6 p.m., a deep, resonant sound that meant his dad was coming home from the boats. It was just past 2 p.m. now, too early for the bell, but it was something he was truly looking forward to. Nathan unpacked his bag, the smell of his mom's fish stew filling the house. Over lunch, they talked about small things, her garden, the neighbor's new boat, but the tension in her voice lingered. After eating, Nathan decided to walk into town, needing to feel Bellhaven under his feet again. He headed for the diner on Main Street, the fog curling around him like a shroud. Inside, the air was thick with coffee and low murmurs. 2 old fishermen sat at the counter. Pete, with his grizzled beard, and another Nathan didn't recognize. Pete looked up, his eyes lighting with recognition. "Nathan Carver. Back from the war, huh? Your dad would be proud." "Thanks, Pete," Nathan said, sliding onto the stool. "Been a while." "Too long," Pete said, but his tone shifted as he leaned in. "Things ain't the same, though. Used to be. You'd hear the angel's voice up at St. Callum's every evening, like clockwork. Now it's gone. 2 years back, they took it down. Things changed after that. Town's been off ever since." Nathan nodded, the silence from St. Callum's weighing heavier now that Pete had named it. "Heard about the trouble," he said. "Mom mentioned Jimmy Tate." Pete's face darkened. "That's just the start. Something's wrong with this town, Nathan. Feels like we're all carrying a weight we can't shake. Nathan took a sip of his coffee, his eyes drifting to the window. The fog pressed against the glass, muffling the world outside. Pete's words stuck with him. The town's been off, and he felt it too. Bellhaven was home, but it didn't feel like it anymore. He needed to know why the angel's voice was gone, and what it had taken with it. Nathan's first few days back in Bellhaven were restless. He'd walk the docks each morning, the salt air sharp in his lungs, nodding to fishermen he'd known since he was a kid. But the replies were short, their eyes sliding away like they had somewhere else to be. At night, he heard shouts from the rusty Anchor bar, louder than the usual bar noise that set his nerves on edge. Bellhaven felt wound tight, and Nathan, still wired from the 4 years in the Middle East, couldn't shake the feeling that something was about to snap. On his third evening, he headed to the docks, needing to see the ocean up close. The sun was dipping low. The light turned the sky a bruised purple when he heard raised voices near the piers. He quickened his pace, his boots thudding against the wooden planks, and rounded a stack of crates to find two fishermen going at each other. Ronnie, a wiry guy with a limp from a bad fall years ago, and Carl, broad-shouldered and red-faced, who taught Nathan how to tie a proper knot when he was 10. They were slashing at each other with fishhooks, the kind used for deep-sea catches. Their movements wild and sloppy. Blood already stained the planks, a bright smear against the weathered wood. Hey, stop it! Nathan shouted, rushing in. He grabbed Ronnie's wrist, twisting it until the fishhook clattered to the ground, then shoved Carl back hard enough to make him stumble. What the hell's wrong with you two? Ronnie's eyes were wide, almost unseeing, his breath coming in sharp gasps. He took my spot! My spot, Nathan! I've been fishing this patch for years! His voice cracked, raw with a fury that didn't match the petty complaint. Carl lunged forward again, his own fishhook raised, but Nathan caught his arm, pinning it behind his back. Enough! Nathan growled, his military training kicking in. He held Carl until the fight drained out of him. The bigger man slumped against a piling. But as Ethan let go, he felt it. A low vibration, like a hum in his bones, coming from the direction of St. Callum's on the cliff. It made his teeth ache, and for a moment, his own anger flared, hot and sharp, urging him to swing. He clenched his fists, forcing it down, his training the only thing keeping him steady. You both need to cool off, Nathan said, stepping back. He looked at the blood on the planks, then at the two men. Their faces pale now, like they'd just woken up from a bad dream. Just go home and cool off. They shuffled off, muttering apologies, but Nathan stayed, staring at the cliff. The hum lingered, a pressure in his chest he couldn't shake, like the moments before an ambush in the desert. Something was wrong with Bellhaven, and it wasn't just small-town grudges getting out of hand. The next morning, he headed back to the diner, needed answers. Pete was there again, nursing a coffee, his hands wrapped around the mug like it was the only warmth in the world. Heard about Ronnie and Carl, Pete said as Nathan sat down. They're good guys. Known them forever. But lately, it's like everyone's got a short fuse. Nathan nodded, his jaw tight. Felt it myself last night. Took everything I had not to join in. He leaned in, lowering his voice. You said things changed when the angel's voice was taken down. Who did it, Pete? Who decided to pull that bell? Pete glanced around, then sighed. Victor Drayton. Came to town about 3 years ago. Got himself on the council quick. Pushed for the bell to be removed. Said the tower wasn't safe, needed repairs. But no one's seen any repairs, and the bell's been sitting in a warehouse by the docks ever since. Victor's got half the waterfront now, too. Buys up property, twists arms. Something ain't right about him. Nathan's eyes narrowed. What's he look like? Thin, pale, always in a big coat, Pete said. Got these eyes. Don't blink enough, you know? Wears a weird pendant, too, like a carved mouth shut tight. Gives me the creeps. Nathan took a sip of his coffee, filing that away. A man like that didn't just show up and start meddling without a reason. And that hum he'd felt, it was the strongest near the church, where the bell used to be. He needed to see this Victor Drain for himself, figure out what he was playing at. Because whatever was breaking Bellhaven, Nathan had a feeling it started with that missing bell, and the man who'd taken it away. Nathan woke up early the next morning, the memory of the docks fight still sharp. Ronnie and Carl's wild eyes, the blood on the planks, that strange hum in his bones. Pete's words at the diner had given him a name. Victor Drain. A man who'd shown up 3 years ago, got himself on the council, and pushed to remove the angel's voice from St. Callum's Tower. Nathan needed to know more about him, and why the bell was sitting in a warehouse instead of ringing like it should. He started at the library, a small brick building near the town square, its windows streaked with salt from the ocean air. Mrs. Harrow, the librarian who'd known Nathan since he was a boy, was behind the desk, her glasses perched on her nose as she sorted books. "Nathan Carver," she said, her voice warm but tired. "Heard you were back. You here to catch up on your reading?" "Something like that," Nathan said, offering a small smile to keep things light. "Been gone 4 years. Thought I'd catch up on what I missed. Old newspapers, council records, that kind of thing. Figure I should know what's been going on in town." Mrs. Harrow nodded, her expression softening. 4 years is a long time. You've missed a lot. She pointed to the stack of binders in the corner. "Council minutes are over there. Newspapers, too. Holler if you need help." Nathan thanked her and settled at a table with the binders, flipping through newspapers from the last few years. An article from 2 years ago caught his eye. Victor Drain, newly elected council member, had pushed for the removal of the angel's voice, citing structural concerns in the tower. The bell was moved to a warehouse by the docks, and that was the last anyone had heard of it. Nathan found a photo of Victor at the council meeting. Thin, pale, with eyes that seemed to stare through the camera. He wore a heavy coat, a pendant hanging around his neck, shaped like a closed mouth. Nathan's gut tightened. Something about the man didn't sit right. By noon, Nathan decided to see Victor for himself. Pete had mentioned the council was meeting today at the town hall, a squat building near the docks. Nathan slipped in quietly, taking a seat in the back as the meeting started. A handful of locals were there, mostly older folks grumbling about fishing permits. Then Victor walked in, and the room seemed to shift. He was exactly as Pete described. Gaunt, pale, his coat too heavy for the coastal spring. His eyes didn't blink enough, and that pendant gleamed against his chest. When he spoke, his voice was clipped, almost mechanical, addressing some budget issue with a cold precision that made Nathan's skin crawl. Nathan watched, his soldiers' instincts on high alert. Victor's presence was off, like a man who didn't belong in Bellhaven's rough and tumble community. And as Victor spoke, Nathan felt that hum again, the same vibration he'd sensed at the docks, but stronger now, radiating from the man like a pulse, stirring a flicker of anger he had to swallow down. Whatever Victor was doing, it wasn't just politics. After the meeting, Nathan lingered outside, waiting as the council members filed out. Victor emerged last, his steps slow, deliberate. Nathan stepped into his path, keeping his stance casual but firm. "Victor Drain," he said, his voice steady. Victor stopped, his pale eyes locking onto Ethan's. "Yes," he said, his tone flat. "And you are?" "Nathan Carver. Grew up here. Just got back from overseas." Nathan kept his gaze level, studying the man. "Heard you're the one who had the angel's voice taken down. Why's that bell still sitting in a warehouse?" Victor's lips twitched, a smile that didn't reach his eyes. "The tower needed repairs," he said, his voice like a blade. "It's a safety issue. I'm sure you understand the need for caution, Mr. Carver." Nathan didn't buy it. 2 years is a long time for repairs, he said. People are saying the town's been different since that bell stopped ringing. Fights, stabbings, things we never used to see here. Victor's eyes narrowed, just a fraction, but enough for Nathan to notice. "People always look for something to blame," he said. "If you'll excuse me." He stepped past Nathan, the hum spiking for a moment as he brushed by, leaving Nathan with a sudden, sharp urge to grab the man and demand answers. He clenched his fists, letting Victor walk away, but the encounter left him certain. Victor Drain was hiding something, and it was tied to that bell. Nathan couldn't let it go. Victor Drain's cold dismissal at the town hall, a hum that seemed to follow the man like a shadow. It all pointed back to the angel's voice. If the bell's removal was the root of Bellhaven's troubles, Nathan needed to know what Victor had done there. That night, under a moonless sky, he headed to St. Callum's Church, a flashlight in his pocket and a crowbar tucked into his belt. The tower had been boarded up since the bell was taken down, but Nathan had broken into tougher spots overseas. The church loomed on the cliff, its stone walls slick with ocean mist. Nathan circled to the tower entrance, a heavy wooden door with planks nailed across it. He wedged the crowbar under a board, the wood groaning as he pried it loose, the nails giving way with a sharp creak. Slipping inside, he clicked on his flashlight, the beam cutting through the dark. The tower smelled of damp stone and old wood, the air thick with dust. A narrow staircase spiraled up to where the bell used to hang, but Nathan's attention was drawn to a loose panel in the wall near the base, its edges uneven, like it had been tampered with. He pried the panel open, revealing a small black box, no bigger than a book. Its surface carved with the same closed-mouth symbol as Victor's pendant. The hum hit him hard, a low vibration that made his teeth ache and his chest tighten. The same feeling he'd gotten at the docks and outside the town hall. But here, it was stronger, pulsing like a heartbeat. Nathan reached for the box, and the hum spiked, a wave of rage crashing through him. Memories of gunfire, of losing squad mates, of every fight he'd ever been in. He slammed his fist into the wall, splitting his knuckles, the pain snapping him out of it. Breathing hard, He yanked the box free, the hum dulling to a faint buzz as he held it. He sat on the staircase, turning the box over in his hands, his flashlight casting jagged shadows. Whatever this thing was, it wasn't normal. It was tied to Victor, to the town's anger, to the fights that had torn Bellhaven apart. He needed to talk to someone who might know more. Someone who had been at St. Callum's when the bell was taken down. Father Daniel, the priest, lived in a small cottage behind the church. Nathan knocked on the door, the black box tucked under his arm. The old man answered, his white hair disheveled, his eyes bleary with sleep. "Nathan Carver," Father Daniel said, a faint smile breaking through his surprise. "Welcome back, son. Didn't expect to see you at this hour. What's wrong?" "Found this in the tower," Nathan said, holding up the box. "It's doing something to the town. Makes people angry, violent. You were here when they took the angel's voice down. What do you know about Victor Drain?" Father Daniel's face paled as he recognized the symbol on the box. He ushered Nathan inside, shutting the door quickly. "That's the mark of the Order of the Silent Veil," he said, his voice low. "A cult, old, secretive. They believe discord gave them power. My predecessor warned me about them. Said they tried to meddle in Bellhaven before. When Victor came to town, he pushed hard to remove the bell. Said it was unsafe, but I never believed him. The tower was fine." "Where's the bell now?" Nathan asked, seeking verification, and set the box on the table. The hum was quieter now, but he could still feel it. A faint pressure at the edge of his senses. "Warehouse by the docks," Father Daniel said. "Victor had it moved there, out of sight. I think he wanted the bell gone so he could use that thing." He nodded at the box. "It's unnatural, Nathan. The angel's voice, it kept us steady. Without it, this town's been falling apart." Nathan's jaw tightened. He'd seen what the box could do, felt its effects himself. If the bell could counter it, he needed to get it back. But he couldn't do it alone, not with Victor and his supporters in the way. "I need help," he said. "The fishermen, Tom, Ronnie, Carl, they're fed up with how things are. They might listen." Father Daniel nodded, his hands trembling slightly. "Do what you have to do, Nathan. But be careful. Victor won't let that bell ring without a fight." Nathan left the cottage, the box under his arm, his mind set. Tomorrow, he'd find Tom, Ronnie, Carl, and whoever else would stand with him at the docks. He'd get them to help pull the angel's voice from the warehouse and ring it loud enough to break Victor's hold. Bellhaven was his town, his home, and he'd be damned if he let some cult mess with it. "No cult shit in my town," he thought, his grip tightening on the box as he headed into the night. Nathan didn't waste time. At dawn, he was at the docks, the black box under his arm. Its faint hum a constant reminder of what he was up against. He found Tom, Ronnie, and Carl near the piers, mending nets, their faces hard but open when they saw him approach. "Welcome back, Nathan," Tom said, his voice gruff but warm, wiping his hands on his jeans. "Heard you've been stirring things up." "Got something to show you," Nathan said, setting the box on a crate. He explained what he'd found in the tower, Father Daniel's warning about the Order of the Silent Veil, and how Victor Drain had used the relic to turn Bellhaven against itself. "This thing's been making us fight each other," he said, pointing at the box. "The angel's voice can stop it. It's in the warehouse, Victor's warehouse. I need your help to get it back." Carl crossed his arms, his jaw tight. "That bastard's been buying up our docks, squeezing us out. I'm in." Ronnie nodded, his limp barely noticeable as he stepped forward. "Me too. I'm tired of feeling like I'm losing my mind." Tom glanced at the others, then back at Nathan. "Let's do this. For Bellhaven." By midday, they'd rallied a small crew, 6 fishermen, all locals Nathan had grown up with, all fed up with the town's spiral. They approached the warehouse, a rusted building on the edge of the docks. Its doors padlocked but unguarded. Nathan used his crowbar to break the lock, the metal snapping with a sharp crack. Inside, the angel's voice sat under a tarp, its bronze surface dull but intact. The name the angel's voice etched into its rim. The sight of it stirred something in Nathan, a memory of his dad coming home to its toll. They dragged the bell out to the docks, where a crane sat idle, its cables strong enough to hoist the weight. "We'll ring it here," Nathan said, pointing to a spot near the water. "At 6 p.m. sharp, like it used to be." The fishermen nodded, understanding the weight of the hour, and secured the bell to the crane, their movements quick and practiced, while Nathan kept watch, the box at his feet, its hum growing louder, as if it sensed what was coming. They worked through the afternoon, keeping an eye on the time. As the sun dipped low, painting the sky a bruised purple, the clock tower in the tower square, still froze at 5:58, seemed to mock them. But Tom had a watch, and as it ticked closer to 6 p.m., the fishermen gathered around the crane, their faces set. "Almost time," Tom said, glancing at Nathan. "You ready?" Nathan gripped the rope tied to the clapper, his heart steady. Always. At 6 p.m. sharp, Tom gave the signal, and Nathan pulled hard. The angel's voice told, a deep, resonant sound that rolled across the docks, up the cliffs, and into Bellhaven, right on time. Just like it had when Nathan was a kid waiting for his dad. The sound hit him like a wave, clearing the fog in his mind. The hum's pressure lifting for the first time in days. The fishermen froze, their faces softening, as if waking from a bad dream. But the peace didn't last. Footsteps pounded the planks, and Victor Drain appeared, flanked by 3 men in dark coats, hired muscle, their eyes cold and focused. Victor's pale face was twisted with fury, his pendant gleaming as the hum spiked, sharper now, like a scream in Nathan's bones.
"You have no idea what you've done,"
Victor snapped, his voice clipped, mechanical.
"That bell stays silent."
Nathan stepped forward, his grip tightening on the sledgehammer he'd grabbed from the warehouse. "Not anymore," he said. "Your little cult's done here." Victor's eyes narrowed.
"You're a fool, Carver. This town's better off without that noise."
"Better off fighting each other?" Nathan shot back, lifting the sledgehammer. "Let's see how your toy holds up." He slammed the hammer down on the black box, the carved mouth splintering under the blow. The hum screeched, a sound like breaking glass. And then the brawl erupted. Victor's men charged, fists swinging, but the fishermen were ready. Tom tackled one, pinning him to the ground with a growled, "Stay down." Ronnie ducked a punch, his bad legs slowing him, but not stopping him as he drove an elbow into the attacker's gut. Carl grappled with another, their boots skidding on the blood-slicked planks from his previous fight. Nathan swung a sledgehammer at the box again, shattering it completely, the hum dying with a final, pitiful whine. Victor lunged for Nathan, his hands outstretched. But Nathan sidestepped, grabbing Victor's arm and twisting it behind his back. "You're done," Nathan said, shoving him to the ground. Victor's men faltered as the hum vanished, their movements sluggish, like they'd lost their edge. The fishermen quickly overpowered them, tying their hands with fishing ropes, then turned to Victor, binding his wrists as he glared up at them, his pendant still gleaming against his coat. Tom stepped forward, his face hard, and ripped the pendant from Victor's neck, the chain snapping with a sharp crack. He held it up, the closed mouth symbol catching the fading light, and smirked. "Think your cult can shut us up? We're louder than you'll ever be." He dropped the pendant onto a nearby rock, grabbed the sledgehammer from Nathan, and brought it down with a heavy thud. The metal shattered into pieces. Victor flinched, his pale eyes burning with hatred, but he said nothing. Nathan stood over Victor, breathing hard, the angel's voice still echoing in the air. "You messed with my town," he said, his voice low. "Now you'll answer for it." Tom called the sheriff, who arrived with 2 deputies, their faces grim as they surveyed the scene. "Got a tip about this guy," the sheriff said, cuffing Victor. "Been looking into him for a while. Disturbing the peace, inciting violence, maybe more once we dig deeper." He nodded at Nathan. "Good work, Carver." As Victor was led away, the fisherman rang the angel's voice again, letting it toll once more. The sound washed over Bellhaven, a promise of better days. And Nathan felt the weight of the last few days lift, knowing the town was his again. The next morning, Bellhaven felt lighter, the fog thinner than it had been in weeks. Nathan stood on the docks, watching as a crew of fishermen and volunteers used the crane to load the angel's voice onto a flatbed truck. The bell's bronze surface caught the dawn light, its weight nearly 1,800 pounds, requiring careful handling. It took most of the day to transport it to St. Callum's and hoist it back into the tower, a job the town had rallied for, determined to hear its toll from the cliff again. Nathan lent a hand where he could, his muscles sore from yesterday's fight, but his mind clear, the hum's lingering effect gone with the relic's destruction. By late afternoon, the angel's voice was secured in the tower, its rope tested by Father Daniel himself, who smiled wider than Nathan had ever seen. At 6 p.m. sharp, the bell tolled from the cliff, its deep, resonant tone rolling over Bellhaven, just as it had when Nathan was a boy waiting for his dad. The sound was a balm, stitching the town back together, and Nathan felt the rhythm of home settle into his bones. Down at the docks, the community had been busy. Inspired by the victory at 6:30 that night, they'd commissioned a smaller bell, its tone a mournful yet hopeful echo of the ocean's song. The townsfolk came together, donating copper items, old pots, a dented tea kettle, even a handful of weathered fishing lures, to be melted down and forged into the new bell, a symbol of their unity after the darkness Victor had brought. They named it the Sailor's Requiem, a tribute to the fishermen who'd stood against evil, and hung it on a sturdy post near the piers. At 6:30 p.m., As the angel's voice echo faded, the sailor's requiem rang out, its toll sharper, a reminder of the fight and a warning to any who'd try to break Belhaven again. The two bells, ringing in tandem, became the town's new heartbeat. Nathan decided to stay, taking a job on Tom's crew. The docks offering the kind of honest work he craved after years of war. Word came a week later that Victor Drain and his men had been charged, disturbing the peace and inciting violence for the relic's effects, with additional counts of abuse of power for misusing his council position to removing the bell. The sheriff hinted at more charges pending, but Nathan didn't need the details. Belhaven was healing, the violence fading like a bad dream, and that was enough. Every evening, as the angel's voice tolled at 6 p.m., and the sailor's requiem answering at 6:30, Nathan paused to listen, the sounds weaving over the town he'd come home to. The bells rang again, and Belhaven was whole. When darkness casts its shadow over your spirit, threatening to silence your hope, stand firm with those who share your light. Like the bells of Belhaven that rang through the night, we overcome even the deepest shadows by uniting, letting our collective strength drown out evil. Hey everyone, thank you so much for listening. This story is based on something that concerns me. Some people would call it a conspiracy, but it's kind of a little close to home for me. In the story, the bell was taken down because evil people took it down from the church. Back home, where I live, my church got torn down and the bell got removed, which led me to really research that bells have been removed over cities across the world, and I'm really concerned about that, especially with the advent of 5G towers and stuff. Yes, we're getting into conspiracy territory, but it is a little concerning to me as well. If you have any similar feelings or stories or anything like that, put it in the comments below. I'd love to hear it and we can start a little chat about it. Aside from all that, the creation of this story was really, really fun. Okay, prepare for plug time. I'm on YouTube as well as Rumble. And now, I have just started up an Instagram account, which I will also link through my channel. There, you can request my voiceover services, or if you have a story idea that you'd like me to flesh out, I would be very welcoming of that. I also welcome friends of the scary story and voiceover communities as well. And I also have a Buy Me a Coffee link. Any contribution to the creative process is always appreciated. And remember, it's okay to be scared sometimes. I am too. Embrace the strange, embrace the good fight against evil, and I'll see you in the next story.